Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim, and today is January 8th, 2023, and this is episode 233 of the Workshop Podcast. How are you folks? We have got a good one for you. I just finished up a mind-bending, mind-blowing episode with Josh Sloan, better known as PA Prepper from Get a Host Now. We spent half an hour talking about his story, and then we spent an hour going down a rabbit hole all about AI. We did some testing. I've never done some of these OpenAI chat programs that he showed me. I did them live on there and my mind was blown. I hope I sounded like a kid at Christmas time. So real quick, let's get the announcements out of the way. Telegram group, guys, it's where all the cool kids hang out. It is the place to be for the workshop community. If you're listening to this episode and you're like, how do I interact with Tim and all the other people? That is the way to go. Go there. We answer questions. We tell jokes. We share memes. We have ideas. We do watch parties, everything. So grab that link in the description below. And number 2, do not forget, we are going to run this promo until the end of January. So our buddy Mitch, who shit all over my dreams over on TikTok, sorry Mitch, we decided to use him as a promo code to give you 2 free patches if you sign up for Patch of the Month Club. So go to patchofthemonth.co, sign up there, and you'll get the die-cut Toolman Tim patch and the patch that started it all, been prepping since Y2K. $10 a month, $100 a year. Go to patchofthemonth.co. And finally, guys, today's tool is the ENELOOP spacers for D and C batteries. If you didn't know these existed, you're going to think they're pretty cool. So if you have, I've always talked about the importance of specializing, standardizing on a certain type of battery. I have mostly AA rechargeable ENELOOPs. I have some AAAs as well. But on occasion, I have a need for Ds and Cs. Now, here's the thing. For a while, I would buy the cheap Amazon Basics, use them, and throw them away. But I came across these spacers that ENELOOP makes for Cs and Ds. You take a single AA battery and you shove it up inside it, and it allows you to tap into the stored energy in those AA batteries, but put them into tools and devices that require D and C batteries. It's a really cool way to standardize without needing to go into a whole bunch of other batteries. So the Amazon affiliate link is in the description if you're interested, or if you just want to go by and check it out. And of course, it always goes to support the workshop. So with that, guys, I'm excited for you to get into this episode. If you can't tell, I'm still stoked from the conversation we had. I never always know where these conversations are going to go, but it was mind-blowing. You can tell just by the interaction we got from the community tonight how crazy it was. So I hope you guys enjoy this even 10% as much as I did, because I'm going to bet you're going to learn something from this and you're going to find out, wow, the potential for side hustles, to make money, to just create is incredible. So with that, let's get into my conversation with PA Prepper on the importance of shared hosting for a website, and then a crazy follow Alice down the rabbit hole look at artificial intelligence. Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop. We got a great interview show lined up tonight. I have getahostnow.com with, no, I'm just kidding. I have Josh Sloan, otherwise known as PA Prepper in the TSP sphere, and him and I chatted a lot over the years over in the Zello app, and he's also, well, I'll let him tell you who he is. So, hey Josh, how are you, bud?
Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Good to finally be on.
Yes, and you're floating in the etherverse right now, it looks like.
Yeah, I wanted to give a sneak peek of the ugly mug, but I'm going to switch here just so there's less choppiness to
Sure.
A cyberpunk AI generated avatar, which we'll talk about a little bit.
That's
but little bit weirder, nicer, more stable.
No worries. Yeah, I've run into that. I had a couple over the last year where their connection was just shoddy enough that audio only worked a lot better for them. So
yeah, I live in a little town of 500 homes that I don't know that we'll ever get 5G cell phone signal.
Yeah,
barely get 4. So I generally don't do a lot of video stuff.
No problem. Chris Dixon says that your background looks like when he paints with the doors closed.
Nice. I might like a room like that.
Let's get started, Josh, with tell everybody who you are, where you came from. One of the traditions in the workshop is, as you tell your story, where you came from, make sure you tell us what your very first job for pay was. That's a good theme around here that everybody seems to get a kick out of.
Interesting. On the books or off the books?
Doesn't matter to me. Whatever you consider your first job, because go ahead.
So I think probably my first job was helping a little old lady mow her yard for $5, and it took me all day. I had forgotten about that until just recently, but the first good money job I got, my father always lived outside of town and in the countryside, and one of his friends said, "Hey, I heard him talking that I need some manure for my garden." And I knew a friend who had a truck. He was a year older than me, and he had his license. I said, "Hey, let's go down to the state fair, and we can get all the manure we want. This guy will pay us for manure." And so we sold a pickup truck, old beat up pickup truck full of manure for $60. That was that's when I realized there was opportunity everywhere if you just keep your ears and eyes open and be ready to accept it.
Talk about making money from a shitty job. So that's all right.
Yeah.
So,
but no, I guess I'm kind of a reluctant geek. Well, second generation. Dad was a programmer from the 70s. He'd wake up in the middle of the night talking code, and we'd laugh at him, trying to figure out what he was talking about. We had no clue, but it was late. We knew it was code or computer related. Back when the computers had reel-to-reel and punch cards, that was my first exposure to computers. So I actually went to college for cultural anthropology and political science, but I built my first small business and my first website in 1994 to turn a hobby of aquarium fish into a business. I knew how to raise them, I knew how to breed them, and I knew how to ship them through the postal service. And I was one of the very first people to sell domestically raised aquarium fish on the internet. Boy, the websites were pretty crude back then, but it got the job done. And even back then, I considered myself more of a marketer than a web developer. But as time went on, one of my HTML teachers in community college level that I knew was moving away and asked me if I would come and teach his class the next semester. I said, sure. So I got some exposure to, early HTML without content management systems, and never considered myself a brilliant designer, but I enjoyed the whole concept of how technology could improve people's lives, improve the efficiency of their businesses, and give them a leg up against competition who had a lot more money. So kind of an equalizing force. My background is, after college, I had a couple interesting non-tech jobs, but then my first tech job was for a software company for customer relationship management software for the automotive industry. And that took me out to Arizona, where unfortunately 9/11 happened and that business went belly up. But because it went belly up, I ended up at the University of Advancing Technology in Tempe, Arizona. An old GeoCities site. No, it was at the same time as GeoCities, but it wasn't the GeoCities site. It did have an animated GIF with MIDI music.
Can we go back to that just a bit, because I'm sitting here just vibrating. My very first real pay job was as a community access program worker at a local library. So in 97, I taught everybody in my entire town basically how to use the internet. So, and my first website was a GeoCities website I did for a local wrestling organization. And I learned a little bit about HTML and stuff, but that was like 97. So you were 3 years before that. So was GeoCities even a thing in 94?
It was actually. Okay. The first internet browser, I was at the University of Illinois, when several of the students developed Mosaic, which then but the university said you're not allowed to sell or profit from your schoolwork. So they said, screw you, we're not going to get our degree. We're going to go form the company Netscape.
I remember that. Oh, yes.
That was 1992, I'm pretty sure. And I had been using the internet since, I was doing BBS systems in 87, 88, 90. When I got to university, kind of ashamed to say it, but DARPANET was the thing, and before the browsers, and it was all text-based. University of Illinois was a node on DARPANET, and we played text-based games. And I used it for political activism.
Really?
The Pine email system was perfectly fine for cross communicating with people all over the state and in other states. And so, in some ways, I feel like that was a really interesting, pivotal moment. I mean, that's really when I got addicted to technology, because I was like, "Holy cow! I can, I don't have to be on the phone all the time. I can send these emails, and we can exchange documents and hyperlinks." Back then, though, I was the kind of guy that surfed the internet without the images on.
Sure, because it was
way faster.
Yes, of course I remember that. Yeah,
and then if there was something interesting, then I might turn the images on. That was back when you go to download your email and you go eat dinner and wait for your email to download.
Yep. I got to. You know what? We should have you back on someday, Josh, and we'll just talk about the early days of the internet and tech. Because there's a lot. We have a lot of people in the community who are into that kind of retro tech and the old, because we're all kind of, Gen Xers who kind of grew up on that. And it's there's something about nostalgia. It's a powerful drug.
Whenever you hear that dial tone, that squeaky, staticky dial tone, it's like forever ingrained in your brain.
Oh yeah,
the modem sound.
What were you doing for work for Y2K? That's always one of my pet topics too.
What was I doing? I think at that time I was already at the University of Advancing Technology. I was effectively what they called a traffic coordinator, which sounds a lot more brilliant than it was. Basically, I was the guy that would look at traffic log files and try to find patterns. Where's the traffic coming from? Who's sending it to us? Is it good traffic? Is it bad traffic? Does it, is it landing where it needs to? I mean, are they getting lots of dead pages? This is before Google Analytics.
Yep.
And so, but they needed somebody to teach. I didn't have my teaching certificate, but I said, sure. As long as you're cool with me not having my teaching certificate, I'd be happy to pick up a couple of courses. So I did web design. I did e-commerce and web marketing. Those were my three subject matters and in fact, today my business is built on those three legs. I have the technology, the hosting piece. I have the consulting and the coaching and mentoring piece. And then I have the development piece for when, people actually want me to work on their sites. So
how did you get into that? Hosting, where did that part come in?
Honestly, Tempe, Arizona was the home of GoDaddy. And I was tired of answering the question to my consulting clients, where should I host?
Sure.
And I'm like, this is dumb. I can do at least as good a job as everyone else is doing. I may not have the pricing power, this economy of scale, but at least if I had my own hosting service, I wouldn't have to keep answering that question. You can go anywhere you want, as long, but you could also go with me.
Sure.
And that made it gave me a reason to develop that part of my business where the customers kept asking that question.
So I got to tell you guys this. So Josh, he's built his business kind of on word of mouth, friend of a friend of a friend, that kind of thing. And before we started tonight, he asked me what separates So he was asking me what separates his business from where you could go anywhere else. And for me, it's the personal touch. It's the fact that, I have an open line of communication that I can chat with him and he can help me, walk through my idiocy. I don't know if that's the right term. Anyway, figure out what I'm doing wrong. And it's really nice to not have to call a call center halfway across the world for someone who maybe had 2 days worth of training. So,
Right.
so why would someone, what is it you call what you do? Because I always get it mixed up. I try to call it private hosting, but it's not private hosting, is it?
Well, it would technically be called shared hosting.
Okay.
It's self-hosted WordPress is the core. Like 99.9% of all sites I host are WordPress sites.
Okay.
They're the easiest to learn and teach for me. There are people that are perfectly fine with, GeoCities or
Angel Fire. Remember Angel Fire?
Angel Fire. Oh my God, yeah.
Tripod.
And I'm not, if they're doing fine on whatever platform they're on, I'm not going to try to strong arm them to come to me. I want people to do business with me because they want to do business with me, not because they feel, strong armed or scared of, doing business with somebody else. Even though my business has sort of 3 legs to it, I sometimes jokingly call myself a digital concierge.
That's a good term. Yeah.
What are you looking for? You need help with domain names? I've had many, many consulting sessions with people just trying to pick their domain names. I've owned over 500 in my life. Do you need to pick a web host? Do you need to pick a web theme or template? Are you having problems developing content for your site? Are you trying to understand, the security of your site? Are you wondering what's all this mess about plugins and how do I future-proof my site? Like, what's my backup if the site crashes? How do backups work? Like, pretty much almost any topic related to websites I've had conversations and consulting sessions about. I'm not in the business of doing hands-on SEO much anymore because the nature of search engines has changed so radically.
Sure.
I still consult with people about it. I still help them to prioritize what I think is the best practices. But honestly, what everyone wants is the result. They don't really, when you say, well, all SEO 10 of your pages on your website, the question is, well, when will it work?
Right.
Nobody knows. Right. You can't make anyone who promises you they can make you number 1 in Google is a liar, unless they're buying that position and not telling you that they're spending their fee on buying advertisement. But if you're going to spend money on a consultant, you ought to know exactly what they're doing for you. But yeah, it's kind of a hodgepodge on any given week. What could be thrown my way. I will say that when people out of the blue call me, they'll get my phone number somewhere. I charge my full rate,
sure,
which is $150 an hour. But anyone who's already doing business with me, I built their website, they're hosting with me, I've done coaching sessions with them before. I don't need to get rich. I cut that right in half and say, look, time is money. I got to account for it. But look, if you're my hosting client and you've got a question that I can answer in 5 minutes, it's not even worth me opening my accounting software. It's not worth me sending you an invoice for 5 or 10 minutes. It's just not. So I'd much rather people, call me for support. I absolutely, it drives me bonkers when somebody calls and says, I've been having this problem for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Sure.
And I'm like, dude, you should have just called me. We could have got you hooked up in 5 or 10 minutes. Well, I didn't want to bother you. No, you might not be my family, but you're feeding my family. So come on, let's get this knocked out. And so, yeah, I treat every site kind of like I owned it, even though I don't.
Sure.
Very security conscious. I've been hacked 3 times in 20 years, and every time they get meaner, nastier, more aggressive, and I just hate it. Absolutely hate it. There's no such thing as 100% perfect security, But there's a whole lot that I've learned that I can do that keeps most of the problems at bay.
So I remember when I first started thinking about, contacting you and figuring out what it is I really needed. So at what point does somebody you need to contact you and start looking at a shared hosting service, or why would someone want to do that? Where would they get kind of the inclination to get started with that?
Well, maybe 30% of the folks that contact me have tried to do their own website on WordPress.com, and they're just not happy with the level of support. They're not, or they run into a problem where WordPress says, "Oh yeah, you can do that, but you have to pay more money." And I'm not a big one for nickel and diamond people to death.
Sure.
So a lot of times I've reached the limit of what I know how to do or what I'm willing to do, and now I need to talk with somebody who has a longer perspective, or somebody's not going to just try to sell me something just to sell me something. There's actually times where I've told people, what you're doing sounds like the perfect business for Facebook.
Oh,
not that I don't want to do business, build you a website, but have you even tested your market? Do you do posters, brochures, business cards? Do you try to sell things on Facebook or Etsy? I mean, there's occasions where I actually say, I'm not sure you're ready for a website.
Huh.
But we can talk, and at the point you are, I'll be here. I just had a lady this last week that wanted to do a couple of different things, and she was on WordPress.com, and I said, "Look, no, they don't let you have a shopping cart, but you can put a link to PayPal."
Yep,
that's a workaround, and for what you're trying to do, I think that's all you might need, right? And so I'm just brutally honest with people. Like, I don't know that you're ready for me. I don't know that you need me. I'll even say, I even go to so far as say, look, you can get a college student who'll do anything for $250 to $500. They're young, they're hungry, they're desperate. They want to add stuff to their portfolio, but good luck 3 years after your site's launched. Where are they?
So true.
They're in the workplace. They're moved on. They changed their career. Like, you got what you wanted at that moment, but then there's a price that you have to pay later on. And then you can also go to an agency. You can go to any agency in any town, and they're probably not going to touch you for at least $3,000 to $5,000. Why? Well, they got staff. They got overhead. They got electric bills. They got a copywriter. They got a programmer. They got a graphic designer. They got an account manager. They have an owner. They've got so much more going on that they literally need to charge more for what they do. And then I'm one of those weird guys that's kind of in the middle. I'm not the most expensive, but I'm not the cheapest. But I'm totally honest about that. And I know that the pains of a small business trying to come up with money for a website, even if it's only $1,500, that's like a chunk of change.
Yep.
So I'm willing to work with people and say, okay, well, I need something to motivate me to get started. So let's put half down. And then when we launch, we'll worry about the other half. Usually that's going to take anywhere from, 3 weeks to 9 weeks, depending on what the site is. And that way, what you've got to pay out, and I know what I'm expecting as, income coming in. And I don't like surprises. So as long as you're cool and I'm cool, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
So I'll share this little story about my interaction with you, Josh, just so people can kind of get an idea. But, first I had him basically, I scabbed together a WordPress site, and then Josh moved it over to, is it WordPress.org? Is that right, Josh?
No, from WordPress.com to self-hosted WordPress.
So it was there, and that was fine. And it everything ran smooth for about a year. And then I get this crazy idea that I want to do a membership kind of subscription type thing. And I had no sweet clue how, what, when, or why, any of it. And so the beauty of it was I messaged Josh, and he's like, hey, let's get you on an hourly consultation call. and he walked me through. I told him what I wanted to do, and he basically knew what to set up from there. And what were we? A couple hours, weren't we, Josh?
Yeah. I think we
Yeah,
had
and it
most of
worked.
what you wanted in a couple hours.
And so, yeah, that's the type of thing that you offer, that personal touch that you'd have a hell of a time.
I don't have a boss breathing down my neck to get off the phone and go to the next customer.
And I can tell you're a born salesperson in a good sense because you're willing to turn customers away. And because that, I don't know, I always succeeded in sales, but that was one of my big things was if I can't offer you what you want, I'll send you to another store so you can get what you need.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I noticed Jaggy asked a question about do I do graphic design and logos and such. And there was a time when I did do some of that work. But again, I don't consider myself the most artistic person.
Right.
So I explain people their options as far as I've worked for companies that have paid $10,000 for a logo. University of Advancing Technology. I've worked for companies that have spent $500 on a logo. And I've worked with a lot of small businesses that spend between $50 and $150. And usually right now my core and my passion is all with small business and saving the money without looking cheap.
Yep.
So I will direct people to outsourcers for logo design. Look, there's some really good online logo designers now if you're patient enough to play with them.
Yes.
Right. And that's fine. There's a lot of, there's about an hour long spiel that I give about, branding and your logo. What kinds of file types do you need? What are the little hidden gotchas as far as commercial use of fonts and iconography? And I may have even given you that spiel at one time or another.
You did.
But when you go into it with your eyes open, you're a better client for the designer. Right? This guy, he knows what font he wants. He knows he only wants open source iconography. He wants, the source graphic when I'm all finished. A lot of people don't ask for that.
Yep.
He wants a version that'll work on a black background and a version that'll work on a white background. Offline file type, online file type, all that stuff. That actually helps the graphic designer know that he's dealing with somebody that's given it some thought. And so, and I'm always a believer with outsourcers, especially internationals, that carrot on the stick doesn't hurt either. So if you're paying $10 or $25 for a logo, tell them I'll give you a bonus. What my tactic is, I'm going to use 3 people. I'm using 3 people to design my logo, and whoever's logo is the one that I end up using on the site, I'm going to tip them. I don't tell them it's going to be $10 or whatever, but there's a motivation, right? Like, oh, he's got more than one person working on this project. I better do a good job. And if I do, he's going to leave me a good review and he's going to tip me and he might even come back for more work. So, I feel like it's worth incentivizing people when they do good work.
You helped me with that. I mean, you set me up. You give me that kind of, hour long chat about, how to properly go through something like Fiverr, because I really wasn't aware of Fiverr. I might have heard it in passing before, but
and
I had
a lot of crummy stuff on there too that I don't trust, and I've been burned, and I've had other people get burned. It's like anything, but if you kind of develop some experience and you know how to avoid some of the pitfalls, a little bit safer place to work with.
So when I went on there, I kind of had an idea of what I was looking for, and I read through the reviews, kind of followed your advice, and I found a really good guy, and he's done, I think, 4 different logos for me now for different businesses and ventures, and it's worked great. And the price is good, and I always, and then we found somebody, my wife, one day, Becky said, "Hun, can you design a an 8.5 by 11 promo sheet to send out for the daycare?" And I said, "Well, I can pay somebody to do it." And I think $20 on Fiverr. We found, some lady, she does them like 15 minutes I just send her the information I need. she's done 7 or 8 of them for us now. And I'd barely have GIMP open on my computer for editing,
Yeah.
images, right? So,
Yeah.
I thank you over and over for that, because it's worth every penny.
Yeah. I mean, I use Pixlr, Pixlr, Pixlr.com. It's a web-based editor. It's like the web-based version of GIMP or Photoshop.
Okay.
And for everything that I need to do, which is typically resizing photos that somebody's given me, or resizing stock photos, or adding a text layer over the top of it, or adding a blur, like very basic stuff that I don't need to buy any software for that. I can just use Pixlr and be done with it. There's so many good tools on the internet to help people, whether it's graphic design tools, copywriting tools, stock photography sites. It's just an amazing world we live in. Look, everything that I ever learned about HTML, I only use like maybe 1% of it now because of the content management systems.
Right.
But I spent, like, say, 94 through 98 kind of working my way around. First it was Notepad, then it was Hot Dog, then it was Front Page, then it was Dreamweaver. And, I went kind of through that early evolution before the content management systems came up. And I still value that time. But an individual now, a young person in high school, can learn everything I learned in 4 years in 6 months on YouTube.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's kind of humbling to think about. But they won't get the experience. So,
right.
I started as mainly a marketer who developed some web development skills based on necessity and interest. And then once I had that under my belt, I realized I was missing that technology, that hosting piece. And I saw no reason not to carve out some of that space for myself.
So we're going to go down a rabbit hole here in a minute, guys, because Josh and I got chatting beforehand, and I realized that he's really deep into and passionate about kind of the AI revolution that's coming up. But I don't want to. So we can kind of come back around to how people can find you. But before we jump away, email, the URL. What's the best way if somebody says, I want to just get started with you, Josh, and just kind of feel things out and see how it goes? What's the easiest way to do that?
So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I prefer phone calls because, like I said, I can answer most questions very quickly and succinctly. If I have to sit down and email you the answers, I get a little obsessive about using the right words and describing things the right way. And what takes me a half an hour on the email could take me 5 minutes on the phone. So if you want to share my phone number, it's 484. 241 5490. I'm East Coast, but I'm a bit of a night owl, so I have plenty of clients and folks that contact me from the West Coast or the left coast. So I don't. If I'm awake and answer your phone, I'm never going to get mad, even if it's 2 a.m, because if it's important enough for you to call me, and I happen to wake up, then it's important enough for me to give you the attention you need. So, and we can schedule things as far as, hey, I'm free on Saturday or I'm free on Thursday or whatever. We can schedule time to, go in depth about your specific needs. The website for the hosting is getahostnow.com, which is the name that's shown by the avatar, I think. And so you can look at the web hosting packages. I keep it simple. And I keep it as affordable as I possibly can. I think I've raised my prices 3 times in the last 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And what I usually have to do is when I raise them for the new folks.
Yep.
And then I try to leave the old ones grandfathered as long as I possibly can. Once in a while, I get thrown a zinger where like a piece of tech that didn't used to cost me starts costing me. And then I got to bring everybody up a little bit. to pay for that tech. But it's not exactly a loss leader. There's a little profit there. But given that you have to buy a domain name, you have to buy a template, you're probably going to end up buying your logo. You may or may not buy a copywriter. Web hosting is just one more expense. And so I want it to be as affordable as possible. You can buy a domain from me, but I'm domain agnostic. There's a lot of places you can get domains far cheaper than what I can offer. And that's perfectly fine. You can get them wherever you want and point them to me. It's no big deal. I don't sweat it.
That's cool. And because I think what you offer, Josh, is a service at this point, kind of a hands-on service that you're not going to get from GoDaddy or Fiverr.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. That's why I probably should do a site called Digital Concierge, but maybe somebody already bought it by now. But that's what I feel like. Ask your question. I won't blow any smoke up your backside, and hopefully, because of my years teaching stuff at the college level, I'm able to help make you feel safer, more comfortable with the direction that you're going.
And you do a damn good job at it, because and Josh, getting hosted by Josh isn't as simple as just signing up and automatically getting approved. It's kind of like joining the mafia, where you got to know a guy to know a guy, but that's in a good sense. Yes.
Yeah. I prefer to only do business with people who either know me or who know somebody who knows me, because the random wackadoodles on the internet these days bring problems. I don't need problems. I don't want problems. I want long-term stable hosting environment. I want long-term stable websites. I want long-term stable customers. And so nothing gets automatically approved. I have to, when you place an order, I call you and say, okay, this is who I am. How'd you hear about me? And we do this is how my process works, so that you go into it with your eyes open.
Renegade Butcher, a fellow Josh, says it's a legitimate business.
Yeah.
We got a good crowd. A few names I don't recognize all the time. We got a Bob in here who said heck yeah as well, so that's cool. And Hunter says you charge extra for smoke blowing. So
yeah. Well, I don't have my medical card, so I don't think I can do that.
So you were talking about a whole bunch of tools being available for, all across the board. But the big one, or the big ones we chatted about, in the pre-show, was some of this AI stuff. So do you want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit and tell me how you've been using it and how content creators and, website people can use it?
Sure. Well, I'm not an expert. There are very few of those out there yet. There are some, but I am fascinated by it. I am the whole concept of transhumanism doesn't scare me one iota. I remember when I first started playing with AI, I remember a line from a Love and Rockets song. It said, it was a band in the 90s, you cannot go against nature, because if you do, going against nature is part of nature too. And so that has stuck with me all these years. And so when people go, oh, well, this is a terrible, terrible thing, I'm like, it doesn't have to be.
Right.
It really doesn't have to be. I first started playing with the AI art tools because I'm not a great artist, but I can sort of describe what I'd like to see, and I can appreciate when I do see something that I like. To me, it doesn't matter if the creator was human or computer. If it fits its purpose and I enjoy it, that's all that matters to me. And then, so the AI art was kind of the thing that really got me hooked in the beginning. I started doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but some of the stuff that was most fun was coloring book, black and white designs that you could print out and use as a coloring book. Whether you're an adult or a child, it doesn't matter. You should not have to buy a coloring book anymore, because you can just make your own coloring book images, whether it's dragons or unicorns or cubism or woodcuts or pen and ink. There's just, the more refined your input is, the better the output is.
Okay.
And so I think that's part of my challenge right now in understanding how to deal with AI, is how to develop the input so that the output is more to my expectations. Now, I mentioned something to you about, I like disruptive technologies. I like it when we have revolutionary things that change the way everybody thinks about something. The
Yes.
internet was kind of that way.
Absolutely.
The automobile was that way.
Yep.
But I'm thinking about it a slightly different way than most people. Most people are saying, oh my gosh, robots are going to put people out of work. And that's not untrue, but the way they're thinking about it is it's going to put the McDonald's worker and the service worker and the regular laborer out of work. I don't think so. I feel, after playing with this AI stuff for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I think it's going to be the knowledge workers that are going to lose their jobs. The programmers, the engineers, because where AI excels is in rule-based knowledge, and mathematics and programming are perfect examples of that. Because you break the rule, your program doesn't work. You break the rule, your engineering structure falls apart. And so I actually think that it's not the laborers that are going to need to worry about losing their jobs initially from AI. I think it's going to be the knowledge workers. I could be wrong. I totally could be wrong. But, I went from the AI art tools where I used up all my credits. They give you like a credit-based system. and then I went into the Chat GPT maybe 2 or 3 weeks, 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Let me let me bring it up. I'm going to share my screen because you sent me a link here. Let's see if we can.
Yeah. If you want to try one of these things real time.
Sure. I've never done this, guys. So now,
all right. So
go ahead. Tell me what to do here, John, or whatever you want.
Perfect example in the bar down below.
Yep.
Let's have you write 10 titles for blog posts about yard maintenance.
Hit enter, right?
Yep.
Look at this, guys. 10 tips for beautiful low maintenance yard. The ultimate guide to lawn care for beginners. 5 simple tricks for a healthier lawn. 7 common mistakes to avoid in yard maintenance. So, if nothing else, right now, this is creating a ton of brainstorming.
Yeah. You might only, even if you only liked one of those ideas, how long did it take you?
Right. I mean,
if you liked all of the ideas, you now have 10 potential blog posts about yard maintenance, starting with this list. Now, the thing about AI is it learns from what you just did. So if you now say, write me an outline for title number 1, write me an article outline for title number 1.
Let's see. This is article outline for title. Do I use a number sign?
I just write it out, but
title 1. Okay, let's try this.
It should work.
Look at this, guys. So this is real. So this is not somebody on the other end typing it out or anything. This is AI. So what does it do? Scrub the net with these topics and then come back, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, it's using all of the available data that it was fed up until like 2020, I think 2021. And so it's cherry picking and writing. If you were to run this through a plagiarism checker, you might find 1 or 2 things that match with a pre-existing article or a pre-existing web page. And if that's really important for you not to be plagiarizing, then you use another tool called Quillbot to just rewrite it.
This is incredible. It's still going, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, if you did nothing, if this outline, if you liked it and you said, okay, I can use this, great. Now you can write your own article using this as an outline. If you liked it, maybe there's something you didn't like. You could take what you like and leave what you don't like, right? you could take this entire outline and give it to a professional copywriter.
Right.
And say, please write me an article that follows this outline. Now, now that it's written the outline, type in something like write me the introduction for this article.
Wow. So yeah, here it goes, guys. Maintaining a beautiful, well-manicured lawn can be a daunting task, especially for those with busy schedules or limited experience in landscaping. However, with a little bit of planning and regular maintenance, it's possible to have a yard that is both attractive and low maintenance. So guys, those first two sentences read just like a regular old human wrote them. They don't have that kind of stilted, I don't know, like the early Alexa days, you know, like it reads, it flows.
Yeah.
Do you know
what it lacks as machine generated text is personality. You don't really get a sense of the experience and of the person who's writing this.
Right.
I'll give you a perfect. Now, Scramblin says pick one and ask. Yeah, you could say write a tweet to promote this article, or write 10 tweets to promote this article. Let's see what it does.
Oops. Always miss a second O in promote. Let's see what happens here, guys. Tired of spending all your weekends on yard work? Check out our new article for 10 tips on creating. Oh my goodness, this is incredible. So, okay, I want to go through a couple of these comments here right quick, Josh, while it's typing out, because I get it. So the first one is, so Haas, well, first off, Ravenwood Acres says Chat GPT is fun, this is crazy. I love it.
Yeah, it's totally addicting.
Then Haas says, yeah, it's a new thing now and can be dangerous at the same time. Now, Renegade, this is also a Josh. He says, you can be afraid of it, but you can't close Pandora's box or put the genie back in the bottle. So how, and this is the one I want you to comment on, Josh, how do you put it to use for you instead of getting left behind? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is my feeling, and only my feeling is that I'm not sure that I would pass off the blog post that was 100% written by AI as mine. Yes, I am the publisher. I can put my name on it. That's totally legal. But I ethically feel like I need to touch it. I need to add to it. I need to give it the little bit that maybe the feeling that it's missing, right? So I'll give you another example, and this is a good example of missing the feeling. If you type in, write me a job cover letter for, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Computer program.
Somebody just said here I am testing out technology live on the air. So Renegade Butcher said you can write it in the style of famous authors. So I just said, write a tweet in the style of Hunter S. Thompson. And it said, just read this gonzo article on yard maintenance. And let me tell you, it was a wild ride.
10 tips. No, I mean,
that's
the more descriptive your words are, the more it tries to give you what you want. So if you said, if you write a poem about yard maintenance in iambic pentameter or in the style of Shakespeare, would totally do it. I was experimenting on the Zello channel at Christmas. I said, write a scary poem, a poem about scary Christmas. And I think I said like Edgar Allan Poe style or something. And it wrote a really scary Christmas poem. I was like, oh, this is bizarre. This is totally bizarre.
This has come so far in just a couple of years, because I remember, I don't even know if it seemed like some early versions of this, but it was almost nonsense or gibberish, you know, like the words would come out. Do you remember some of that?
Going way back, it was probably 1984, 1983. I was, I think I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
And it was when Apple II computers got put in all the schools.
Yes.
And I literally spent over 100 hours inputting a program line by line of code called ELIZA. And ELIZA was nothing more than a question and answer bot.
Okay.
It picked out words that you said, I'm feeling bad. Why are you feeling bad? It was almost like a psychologist, right?
Sure.
But it was question answer based. This is the evolution of ELIZA. It totally is. And later there was word substitution. They called it spinning content.
Okay.
So how do you put it to use for you instead of getting left behind? Well, you have to. So the limitations, and they'll tell you this on the opening screen of GTP. It's not good at doing trends, right? Like if you say, "What's the annual gross domestic product of Europe of Germany?" Right? It's not going to be very good at trends yet. It's not very good at well, I haven't run into too many. It's not very good at. So, however, cool. I did do an experiment. I was like, "Tell me a lie."
Okay,
and it did.
Oh,
so then I went deeper and I said, "Are you able to lie to me of your own will?" "No, I can only blah blah blah." "Can you lie to me all the time?" "I'm not really programmed to do that." Blah 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 blah. Right. But the concept of artificial intelligence willfully telling me a lie is terrifying. But it made me recognize the fact that the output is only as good as the input. You have to have a critical brain and think about what it's telling you to determine whether or not it's worthy of you to use. So you could use it to write a cover letter, but you need to add some personality, and it writes a perfectly well-structured cover letter. Probably better than half the cover letters I've ever looked at.
I bet that's the truth. Yeah.
You could use it to, I had one guy who wanted real quickly, he was a photographer, and he said, "Well, I don't really have time to write an about me page." Well, I said, "Well, you only need a paragraph or two. Let's use AI." So I said, write a biography for a photographer. He changed 10% of it and put it immediately into use. So wow. in less than a half an hour, he had content for one of his web pages that he had to do very little thinking about, that read
oh my God
very well as a human and reflected actually who he was and what his experience was. Wow. If you wanted to have it write a Christmas card, you wanted to write a story for your child. One of the things I did in testing this out, there's a site called onceUponABot.com, and you only get to use it free once, so be careful. After that, you gotta pay. But I was like, how good? Oh yes, you can. The question is, can you ask it for brainstorming? I said, tell me 20 keywords related to whatever topic, and it will totally come up with keywords. You can even say, tell me 20 long tail keywords. These are keywords that not a lot of traffic, but very targeted at the audience that you want to try to attract. Anyway, Once Upon a Bot is a storytelling AI. And I, just for an experiment, I said, tell me a story about a unicorn who wanted to learn how to fly for ages 3 to 5.
That is so cool. Okay. And how did it turn out?
It was so good. I immediately wrote to them and said, "Can I sell this?"
Right.
Now, it tried to generate AI images, and the AI images were not great. But if you pay for the service, then you can respawn the AI images until they're closer to what you like. So you literally could use that one tool to generate the images and the story that you would then turn into a hardbound or softbound book, or a PDF that you sell on your website, or that you give away at Christmas, or whatever.
So, okay, what was the cost? Do you know what the cost is for that?
That one I think was $6.95 a month.
Wow.
And you can go month to month.
And so, okay, so here's where my brain's going, of course, but where do you see the monetization opportunities? Because
well, there's the creative aspect where you sell the book,
right.
or you sell the art that is generated. And again, you have to read the terms and condition, but most of them, if you're paying for it, you get to sell it. Where you put those images on postcards or calendars or record albums, or my brother's in a band called Dinosaurs Died from Stress, and I generated a bunch of AI dinosaurs smoking cigarettes. I said, you really should consider this AI art for your next CD cover. I also told him, I said, look, if you're ever stuck writing a lyric for a song, this is the kind of tool that can help you generate the lyric that you'll put into that song that you sell.
Right.
You can use it to enhance the content on your website, to update the content or improve the content on your website. You can put together frequently asked questions. Give me 20 frequently asked questions and answers related to lawn care or whatever. Now, you still have to be the human judge of that, right? Whether they're good answers or not. But, oh my God, the speed with which you can do that. Or you could do that for somebody else. There's a lot of people that are intimidated by computers, intimidated by the internet, and they would just assume have your help do this. The advanced guys who are into programming, they can use AI to build programs. There's a site out there that will literally use AI to build you an app. I've got a request for
that was the next question we had from Haas, so that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, it can definitely write a mobile app. I'm trying to think of what I put in the request for. I'm sorry, it's escaping me at the moment. But I did put in a request for a single app to be made, a very simple app that I thought would be, helpful to me if I could have it. And I would never in a million years write the code to build an app. But AI knows that code.
Right.
And so you could become a mobile app builder using AI, even if you don't know the code.
I can see where I could make this a thing where I'm like, hey guys, once a week I'm going to do an AI TikTok video, and I'm going to pick the topic, and I'm going to have the AI write the outline for it, and I'm going to do the 5 points of whatever. And I'm sure it would be a thing, but that's crazy. Like there'd be almost no work involved except for the performance aspect of it.
Yeah. Now I don't expect 100% AI written article to be super fantastic in Google for SEO purposes.
Right.
I think that if Google was really afraid of AI, they would have bought them.
Sure.
And they might someday.
I was going to say they probably still will.
I think since Google owns all the data, they're not really that intimidated by AI at this point.
Right.
But people don't care how the answers come to them. They only care whether or not they can trust the answers. So when AI becomes more trustworthy or easier to trust than Google, then Google's got a bit of a problem, because I don't need to. If I say, there's questions that I can think of where I'd have to wade through several pages on Google, where ChatGPT would just give me the answer. And I don't have to wade through a bunch of pages. I don't have to wade through advertisements. I don't have to be distracted. When ChatGPT becomes more trustworthy, and people can say, plan my trip from Pennsylvania to Chicago, and I look at the steps, and it says, go do this, do this, do this, do this. And I go, hey, that sounds good to me. What do I need Google for?
Right.
So right now it's kind of parallel tracks. Search engines provide value because they provide answers and people trust them. Right now, we're not totally 100% trusting of the AI yet, but I think we could get there, especially for certain subject matters like math and programming and factual stuff. Now, there are some biases because the data sets are made by human. So there's been research that shows that there are some. I can't even think of a way that you would know this, but there are racial biases, there are economic biases, and those eventually will come out, through AI as well. But how is it going to take jobs? I think it's going to take it from the knowledge workers first, the people that are doing the programming. When you can say, show me the code for doing this thing, and it just spits it out for you. Oh my gosh. Now people go, oh, well then people don't have to think anymore. No, I mean, there's always going to be lazy people who don't want to think, but a person who does think is going to look at this and go, do I trust it? I trust it. Does it work? Yes, it works. All right. Why fight it?
Right.
It just did the thing in 10 minutes or in 5 minutes that would have taken me 2 hours. So here's just another tool.
Last night, my daughter and I, we got one of the new Alexa, speakers for Christmas. It's kind of an upgrade from the last one, and it significantly improved. But something I asked last night was, I said, hey, Alexa, how far is it from Provost, Alberta to Camden, Tennessee? And she gave me that. And then I said, can you, can you plan me a trip, or where can I stop for 3 stops between here and there? And she got confused. So I just typed that in here. No problem at all. They give me a step-by-step itinerary to go from Provost, Alberta to Camden, Tennessee. And I bet you, could it find me hotels? You know what I mean? Or it probably could find me a list of hotels in each town, couldn't it?
Well, like I said, the data sets I think that it works with is up through 2021.
Okay.
So it may not give you real-time, up-to-date stats yet. And there could be a time when this becomes monetized, where you got to pay for this. But right now, while it's all in beta, if you would go to that other link I sent you, the beta dreamstudio.ai.
I'm blown away. This is crazy. Sure, I'll bring this. Yep. All right. Bring that one over. Okay. So, yeah. So the last one was called
that was chat.openai.com.
I'm going to put it in the text here. So, yeah. So for anybody who's listening audio wise, it's basically just kind of a text thing, but I think you're getting the gist of what we've been doing here. But the last one I just did was I just put in, give me 3 hotel options for each stop on the trip from Provost to Camden. And they did 4 stops, 3 hotels. And I bet you if I put now list the phone numbers, I bet you it would do that too. So, yeah. Anyway.
What really kind of blows me away is that all your prior inquiries feed the subsequent data. Like it knows when you say, give me an introduction for give me a paragraph for section 1, even if there was 10 sections, it knows what section 1 was. Right? It learns as you interact with it. To me, that's fascinating.
Absolutely.
Now, this is an art tool, and I'm not going to go into all the details of the settings,
okay,
which are off on the right. But if you type in the towards the bottom, there's like a introductory example query.
Okay. Is that where it says dream?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I want you to type something. Now, when I first started learning this, I would try to change just a word or two. Like a dream of a distant galaxy. I might say a dream of a flying horse, right? Now, I just changed something. And once I got brave enough, I started just doing my own sentences like black and white drawing of flying fish. Or you know what I really like to do is if I write like psychedelic woman, for some reason this thing really, when you say the word psychedelic,
PSYCA, oh my, psychedelic,
CHE,
okay,
ED, psychedelic.
Try this.
I don't know. Yeah, and it even corrects some of your misspelling.
I was going to say it probably does, doesn't it? So
yeah, but it produces like 1960s op art, the kind of thing that would be on a blacklight poster.
So Just wanted to.
Yeah, can I explain women?
Yeah, Barrett Bishop, my brother-in-law, wants to know if the open chat AI can explain women. So I'm going to go with maybe not yet, but we'll try.
I have asked it gender questions, and it
Okay.
comes back with fairly reasonable answers. Now, they tend to be, how should I say, not exactly politically correct, but
there's a modern bias or a modern bent to it.
Yeah, they're like, look, you should treat everybody, good no matter what, kind of thing, no matter what they self-identify as, or whatever they're born as, regardless, you should treat people good, right?
Josh says it's a bit woke.
It is a bit woke, a little bit, but
oh my God, this is incredible. Because so I have been kind of putting together some preparedness manuals,
Yep.
and my biggest concern was stock photography or taking all these pictures. But
yes,
wow. So
now a couple things to keep in mind.
Yes, that's what I'm going to ask you. Yep, go ahead.
There's nothing wrong with using the stock photography if it has commercial use allowed. And what you're starting to see is a lot more AI art in the stock photo repositories. I like to use Pixabay is my favorite.
Okay.
Pixabay, Pixabay.com. There's one called Unsplash. There's another repository called burst.shopify.com. But that's stock photos. There are actual AI art tools that will allow you to feed it an input image. So if you wanted to take a stock photo that you're legally allowed to use for commercial purposes, you're allowed to modify it in any way you choose to use, and you feed that to the AI, then what comes out is totally yours, totally unique. Nobody else in the history of the world has ever seen that image.
Wow.
Now, you can say words like photorealism. You could say Salvador Dali. You could give it names of artists, and it'll try to actually mimic that style of art. And you can say book cover, and it'll try to produce, something appropriate for a book cover. I was doing an experiment with just human faces. I said, young woman. And half of them I really didn't like, but some of them were so freaking good. I'm like, how would you even know that wasn't a real human? You know what I mean? There's Salvador Dali.
So what are the financial legal ramifications right now if I wanted to use these photos, which, guys, I just typed in Salvador Dali leaking plumbing pipes with water gushing from it, and that it looks just like it, especially, right. Yeah. So it looks like it would be on, a freshman's dorm's wall, they're in their dorm room's wall. Like it's so, yeah. Can I use these in something I want to print for commercial use, or do you know?
You can. There are different tools, and they have different rules.
Okay.
Most of them will say, as long as you're a paying member, whatever you generate can be used.
Okay.
This creates a lot of chaos in the future for intellectual property.
Sure.
Because you took an image that you were legally allowed to use and you fed it to AI. AI outputted something that was totally unique. It is now yours. You're the one who built it using AI. But what happens if somebody uses it and takes it from you?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that, because
nobody does. That's the beauty of it right now.
You could say he didn't really do it. It was AI that did it. Well, who is AI? And what if you use one AI image to feed another AI image?
Right.
Then you really got a really bizarre situation going. So, but yeah, I think, if I had my leisure time creatively, I would absolutely love do a query here on the art that says black and white line drawing mandala.
Mondala.
M-M-M-A-N, mandala. D-A-L-A, yeah. Then put cartoon style.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, coloring book style.
Okay.
Well, that's good enough. That's pretty good.
All right. Oh, wow. So, of course, when you were talking a few minutes ago there about how, Google may not, um, um, they'll understand that some of this is AI. Well,
Yeah.
but then people don't care as long as they're getting the information. I mean,
Yep.
a big majority, not a majority, but a large portion of stuff that's on YouTube for the last while have basically just been content farming anyway. So whether it's those, 10 interesting tools, and all it is an AI voice talking about a still image that they pulled off of Google or whatever, right? Or how about 20 creepy stories that somebody pulled off of Reddit, and so all they're doing is repurposing someone's stories, right? So
you can absolutely do that.
I could see right now, and there's always money to be made in these the edge times, when things are changing. So before people get really smart at this, I could see doing up 100. I'm sure there's people doing it right now, but 100 coloring books that you can put on Amazon and sell for $5 a piece, and maybe make bank for a year, and then it's gone, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I think adult coloring books peaked about 3 years ago.
Sure,
but I can see where it would be very relaxing to kind of go back to your childhood and a box of colored pencils, and it's like meditation. You just zoning out for a little while and doing something a little different. But you might be able to use AI to illustrate somebody else's book. You might be able to use AI to produce a line of T-shirts.
Yeah,
I haven't done anything with tie-dye yet, but that would probably be quite interesting. Create a tie-dyed fractal image, multicolor or something. That probably would come out super fantastic. Now, there's an art to tie-dyeing that I don't want to disrespect, but the imagery is usually pretty fantastic. So, I mean, as a calendar, I could see these being used on a calendar. You could use them to produce birthday cards, Christmas cards, and I don't know. It just seems like there's no shortage of good ideas. There's only a shortage of follow through. Right now, I don't have time to make a coloring book, but tools like this would make it really, really fun.
Well, and then of course I kind of
who's your prime minister up there? Trudeau.
Yeah, Trudeau. Yeah.
Put in a cartoon caricature of Justin Trudeau, or Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Let's say you're doing an article or an op-ed piece or an editorial, and you needed something to go with it.
Isn't that crazy?
It might blow. It might blow. No, it'll do something.
Oh, that first one's not bad.
Now when it's blurred out,
yeah.
Number one is it doesn't cost you a credit. It somehow thinks that it's not good enough to show you. Like on that psychedelic woman one, there was one that you could kind of tell had boobs, right? And there are some. They're trying a little bit to protect people from extremely graphic violence and pornography.
Okay,
which it's not perfect. I mean, if you write sensual instead of sexual, you might get more results, right? It's not perfect. But you could, let's see, cartoon, and then and you can just hit the recreate again until you get something that you like.
Here, I'm going to put in somebody's cartoon handyman logo. Let's try this.
Okay, on logos, it'll usually put text that's not very readable.
Okay,
it's like futuristic type text, but a good graphic artist can pull that out and just use the parts that are usable.
I can see where this is going to save 95% of the work, because I could take this, throw it into GIMP, and then edit the little bit that I need to edit at that point, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Or give this to your graphic designer and say, take out the words and put my words.
Yeah, exactly. Holy cow. So where do you see this heading? If you had to put yourself, kind of bring in your crystal ball here and gaze into it, and where do you see this going in the next decade?
It's really hard for me to say. I think that because I know that it's very good with rules based and math based stuff, part of me thinks that there are certain fields that it might be better for, like let's say law. Right?
Yes.
Laws are written in books. There might be a time when AI can answer legal questions better than a lawyer.
Maybe more straightforward, at least, because there's nothing worse than asking a lawyer a question and then, there's 17 it depends, right?
Right. Or maybe, medical advice. Like, tell me all of the medicines that I can't take when I'm on this one medicine, or something like that, because it's published information. It may make it less that you need to have to go to a doctor to get that question answered.
Sure.
As long as the trust is there, right?
Right.
I think that we're on the edge of an age where real and unreal are becoming undistinguishable. And more importantly, people won't care. Now, you could say that's a good thing, or you could say that's a bad thing. You can make your arguments on both sides, but it's the ends that most people want. The means is irrelevant. I want to go to California. I don't care if it's a horse. I don't care if it's a car, an airplane. What's available? What's going to get me there the fastest? It's the ends that is the most important to most people. And so, like I said, there's probably going to always be people who won't think and won't question the information that they see critically. I can't help those people. There are people that probably worship AI like it's a god. Right?
Sure.
I can't help those people. But as a tool, I bet you're going to find it creeping into daily office work. I think you'll find it creeping into all of the tech work. I think that if you combine this kind of neural networks and AI technology with quantum computing, we might be able to find answers to questions that would take humans 10,000 years to answer in a week.
Right.
And whether it's life extension or energy efficiency or, what we think our problems are, that and how we describe those is kind of the limitations.
Well, I remember the first time that I was able to search something on Google from a cell phone. And, I'm going to say maybe 2006, 2000, it was a year or two before the iPhone came out. And I remember saying to my wife, this is going to change everything. It was just, that sounds so, archaic at this point, but it just, so in less, we're talking 15, 16 years, you're at this point now where, you're not just going to be able to ask it and answer questions. You're going to have it create things for you with a push of a button or an input of a few words.
Yeah. I mean, the way you felt when you could first search Google was how I felt when I could talk to my phone to Google.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, I just asked my phone a question and it gave me the answer.
I know. The first time I saw, I was actually a demo in 2006 or 2007 for what was Microsoft Surface. And it was the first time that I really saw a touch interface that worked. And it was so smooth and it blew me out of the water. And then just a year later, the iPhone comes out. And
pretty soon it'll be holographic and you'll be, moving your fingers in 3D space,
So now this has got me thinking, but do you think this kind of thing because you were saying how people won't care whether it's, real or not real, as long as the end result's the same. So
yeah, I
then
mean, I get people are like really freaked out about deep fakes.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
AI technology where you think you're listening to somebody saying words. Well, you're listening to the words and you're watching something, but it may not be the person you think you're looking at. I mean, there's stories about guys who are holding down two jobs in the same company.
Sure.
With two different personas because it's all virtual.
But I mean, think about how many people lost their ever-loving minds over the Gutenberg press, right? The priests of the time all of a sudden thought, oh my God, the people will have access to the scriptures, and that was what they were worked up over, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't see the forest for the trees, and how, I mean, that was that followed the Enlightenment, and all of this stuff. Like, people are we always get our panties in a knot over some new technology instead, because like I said, you can't like hop in a river and try to stop the flow yourself. You're not going to do it. But if you lay down and go with it, you might find yourself in a really cool place, or you might figure out something that just blows your mind. And because you said, how do you fight it, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's say at the local level, and I know you do a lot of stuff with side hustles.
Sure.
Anybody right now, knowing what you just did on this podcast, where you said pick titles, write me an outline, and then write me a paragraph about section 1, write me a paragraph about section 2, anybody using this technology should be able to write a 2,000 word article in less than 2 hours.
Yep.
That could make them $300, maybe $200.
Right.
So that means you have the potential to be $100 an hour content generator whenever you want, at the drop of a dime. When somebody says, oh, I need something, or you recognize that there's a need and you pitch them like, hey, I could write this content for you. Or if you don't want me to write it for you, at least let me, pay me to do the outline for you.
Right.
And you might have to do that outline query 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times. And then you give them their choice, right? Because it's the AI that's doing it. You're asking the same question 4 or 5 times. It's giving you 4 or 5 different variations. And you let the client pick which one works for them.
It blows me away. I don't even I hope everybody's brains are just spinning like mine is, because I mean, just think about the opportunity that's here. Like you said, you could send 5 or 6 different, and I think I see this as a facilitator too, because it's like 3D printers. They're very accessible, but not everybody's gonna have the desire or the interest to sit down and kind of learn a 3D printer. So there's people out there who know it and can mock up a part for you and print it, in 10 or 15 minutes worth of setup time.
Yeah.
Whereas me, it might take a while. And that's the same with this, if you take a little bit of time and learn it, right?
I'm fully aware of the potential negative downsides, right? You could tell the AI program, hack the Pentagon, and maybe it could do it. It's not going to know whether it's a right thing or a wrong thing to do, right? So there still has to be some ethics somewhere in the pool. Now, could we get to a point where all of the content on the internet is AI generated? That's a kind of scary thing for me, because when you're using AI to generate AI, and then nobody knows how to actually write real content again. But I think that's so far in the future that there will always be a nostalgic part of humanity that says, I want to read a book written by a human, or I want to write a book without a computer, with just a typewriter or
do you
pen
remember
and paper.
iRobot with Will Smith?
Yeah.
He had to drive a manual vehicle, a vehicle that had controls, because that's what he wanted. I mean, I collect vinyl records for no other reason than it's something substantial that I can hold in my hand. You know what? They're really good, but I bet you that I could subscribe. Well, I do subscribe to Apple Music and get a better quality sound. But why do I buy vinyl? I don't even completely know why I do it, but I like to have that substantial thing that I have in my hand.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even touch on the voice synthesizing. Like you could literally take AI generated content and feed it into a read this in English or read this in German. Take
Right.
the take it, translate it. Somebody mentioned in your chat, write the article in German, and then you can have a synthetic voice read it in German.
You could have, yes, you could you could write a book. Here's one. You could have it write an outline, put a book together, and you could then generate an audio book from that. So then you have
Yep.
a textbook, an ebook, and an audio book all from that one thing, just like that.
Yep.
And then
the voices are getting better. I find though that you have to do some exaggerated grammar to make them sound human, like extra commas or extra periods to, like when I had the voice synthesizers read the AI generated poetry, I had to play with some of the punctuations to get it to sound a little more human. But once I realized that, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
But even doing that, you're probably training it, or I mean, maybe not on that one program, but at some point when voice is kind of brought into this,
Yep.
Once it starts realizing, oh, the human likes it when there's a longer pause here. Well, guess what?
Inflections and pauses and
right. And eventually, and you can be as scared as you want at this, but it's coming whether you want to or not. Like I remember how when Napster started, again, I love disruptive technology as well. And everybody thought it was going to absolutely destroy the music industry. Well, guess what? Yeah. It didn't. It didn't. It certainly changed some things for the worse. It changed some things for the better. But eventually, commerce got in there and made things work. And, you're not going to fight it. So you have to figure out a way to benefit from it and to profit from it in a good sense.
Yeah, all I hope is that people won't be intellectually lazy. Right. It's one thing to write a program that does a thing. It's another thing to misrepresent a chat bot on your website as a human.
Right.
Don't do it. Don't do it. If you're gonna, be honest. That's all I ask is, be as intellectually honest as you possibly can be. Now, does that mean you have to give credits to the source of the image? Not if they don't tell you don't.
Right.
And that's not intellectually dishonest. That's following the terms of their terms of service, right? Like some stock photographies, you have to give credit to the original photographer. Now, I don't use those sites, but there are sites like that. And you should, if it's required, always give credit when they require you to give credit.
Well, I can see two other thoughts here. Automation.
But is your 5-year-old going to care that your story about the unicorn who wanted to learn how to fly was made by a computer program?
Not at all. It's just entertainment.
Not at all.
So first off, I can see some automation in here too. So say you wanted to write 5 articles a week on certain topics, you could put in those 5 topics and then you could probably have AI write a bot to take care of all of that, including, the social media posts, all of that eventually,
Yeah, there's some linkages as far as automation that aren't there quite yet.
Sure.
But, with WordPress, one of the beautiful things is you can publish on schedules.
Right.
And then you just use something like Zapier to take care of the automation. So Zapier says every time there's a new blog post, go ahead and promote it on Twitter or promote it on Facebook. Right. So that's one level of automation. There are other tools that are simply, let's say you have an article for December 1st and you schedule using a tool. Maybe it's not AI, but it's a tool. You schedule 10 tweets to promote that blog post over 10 weeks.
Right.
So those 10 tweets that got written by the AI, all you have to do is include the link and put them in the scheduling tool. There's no real scheduler yet for what to do with the output. It could come.
It would totally come. And then I'm thinking too, audio. you could have you could have it generate like an audio file, or eventually a video file too. So because content is just content, and if you can do text, you can then turn it into an audio and then some sort of video, especially if this whole deep fake thing. But I'm sure in I don't know how many years, but it shouldn't be too far out that it could start generating AI generated video based on those images.
Oh, for sure.
Like we played I think it was last Christmas, with this little app on the phone that you could put in. We actually put a picture of my grandmother. She died in 1990. And it was just this app that took the video, or took the picture, and made them look like they were laughing for 2 or 3 seconds, and that was on an iPhone on a free app 2 years ago. So, it won't be that long until they can take, I'm guessing, the caricature of Justin Trudeau and turn it into a cartoon for me. So
probably write the story and generate the cartoon all at the same time, and make it a publishable ebook and an audiobook. Yeah, I mean,
does that?
It's not that far away now,
right?
It's close, and I'm sure it's going to get better.
Is that gonna? The one thing I'm wondering is that going to wash the value out of some of this stuff? When it can be created so easily. But then again, you yourself said it doesn't really matter to the end user as long as they're getting what they want, right?
Exactly.
Huh.
I if you are buying a DIY step-by-step book, you better be able to follow those instructions and get where you're going, right? Otherwise, nobody's going to trust your content.
True.
If you're building a fantasy novel or a mystery, it better be fantastical, or it better be a nail biter. As long as you get what you want, I don't think it's going to matter whether it's human or machine generated. Now, I'll leave you with this idea. We can close out with a very strange idea. Sure. I have often pondered whether some or all of the functions of government would be better done by artificial intelligence.
Here we go, folks.
Well, I mean, like things like numbers and budgets, or things that can be concrete. Now, I've already admitted that there can be biases built into data sets, so that is a problem. But AI doesn't have it doesn't have the human emotion. It doesn't have greed. It's not beholding to a campaign contributor, right? So I think that there might be, if there's a 1,000-page bill, who could you get AI to say put it in language a 3-year-old could understand? I bet right now it could already do that. That's right now, cool. It could say, explain this in language a 5-year-old could understand, and it would do it right now. So if a lot of people won't trust it, right? Because they already mistrust government. But the reason they mistrust government is they mistrust people. So if the problem is the people, how much of government can we eliminate the people? You want smaller government? More AI. Now you just need the people to watch the AI and make sure it doesn't screw up and create Skynet or something,
And then that opens the door to 1,000 other questions. But you're right. Yeah. I love it. It reminded me, I had grade 7 social studies teacher had the cement dog theory. And at that time he said he believed that you could put a cement dog in elementary school, and 9 years later it would be in junior high, just basically because it kind of pushed its way along. So now I'm kind of thinking, change that cement dog to AI, and they'd probably graduate in 12 or 13 years,
I think if self-paced learning became a reality and technology was a facilitator of self-paced learning, look, if you'd have told me in junior high that if I studied online and used a computer, I could skip high school, I'd have been all over that.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go to high school. It sucks. I hear nothing but bad. I just want to get a job and get to work. I would have worked extra hard to make that happen. And technology might be a way for that to happen. in education.
Well, I can see where you all of a sudden use AI to make a completely customized education plan for every single individual, because
Yep.
the student, you might say, okay, Tommy, you need to learn about, I don't know, history right now. Well, they do the query and they learn from the queries they're putting in there. So, oh man.
Well, instead of teaching everybody the same history, you let them
Right.
pick which parts of history they want to learn.
Whatever's pertinent to them. And then all of a sudden, yeah. Oh my God.
Then they want to learn because it's what they want to learn and not what the teacher tells them they have to learn.
If you're up for it, Josh, a few months down the road, I think we should do a follow-up on AI if you'd like, because I think we just scratched the surface. I really do.
Yeah, I don't know where this is going, but I'm actually, while I admit there could be, the X factor, the unknown factor is not always positive. It's not always negative either. So I'm straddling the middle going, I'm excited by this. I think it has a lot of opportunities right now.
Do you know Andy Higginbotham? Do you know Andy through the TSP community? He cooks at the LFTN workshop and that kind of thing. I've had him on 2 or 3 times to have tech discussions, and we always go down deep rabbit holes. I think he'd have a lot of fun with this AI conversation as well. So
try giving AI some time in your spare time, some philosophical stuff. Like when I had this chat about, tell me a lie, and the first thing it told me was a lie. It said, I am a human, not a computer. I was like, what? Like, uh-oh. Now I got to ask more questions, because how do I know you're not lying to me on the next answer?
or how do you know they weren't lying on the first? Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. So, just even from an entertainment standpoint, it's so much fun to generate a lot of art in one evening, or a lot of article outlines in one evening. Now there's a tool called answerthepublic.com. We didn't talk about it, but it actually gives you put in some words and it tells you questions related to those words. And that can be the content starter for your blog. Well, Now you can use AI to say, give me 10 questions that people ask about this subject, and good and short answers.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay. I hope everybody else's mind has been blown about this as much as mine has, because wow. So we've been an hour and a half, Josh. Why don't we, you said that was you're going to close up on that. So how do people find you? I know we've talked about it a bit, but I want you to make sure you plug the hell out of what you're up to, because hopefully, we'll make some contact for you.
Get a host now, getahostnow.com is my hosting business. You can reach me through the contact form. The phone number that's on there is my Google Voice number. It's close to the one I gave out. But if you have questions about your website, about web hosting, about anything web-oriented e-commerce, I still do marketing consultations. You can reach me at 484-241-5490. And that's Eastern time, but anytime you get me is when you can get me.
Did you? You prefer phone, don't you? Not email, so that's okay.
Yeah. It's probably just easier. It's just totally easier by phone.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you, Josh. This was fun. Holy cow! If you are you cool just to hang for a second, and I'll close up the show?
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks everybody for showing up.
Well, guys, I hope I got so much to think about at this point. I love talking about technology, and I did not know this is where the episode was going to go tonight. And during our kind of pre-show preamble, Josh started waxing eloquently about AI, and I said, yep, that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because I always love talking about what people are passionate about, and he blew our friggin' minds. So I hope this was as good for you guys on the audio. This is one of the rare episodes where I would recommend, if you're listening to the audio, come by on the YouTube channel when you have time and watch the video as well, because just seeing that chat bot and the AI open chat work, it was just it blew me away. So anyway, if you're interested in getting a host now, go to getahostnow.com and support Josh, because he can help you with all that tech, all the techie stuff and everything that needs to be done on the hosting side. But guys, I appreciate you. I love the workshop community. Thanks for all the great interaction. I need to go rest now. So as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.